Welcome to the Daredevil review. This is going to be going over episodes 5 and 6. Full disclaimer, there's not really a way at this point of the season for us to do non-spoiler alert reviews, so this will be a spoiler review. And I will be joined, like always, by my co-host, Justin.
Wow, you really struggled with that one today.
Oh, I did. For those of you who are not keeping up with the Tuesday shows, I'm running around like crazy right now because on top of working my regular work time, taking care of the show stuff, I'm also packing, getting ready for a trip, and getting ready for Season of the Force next week. So we're kind of all over the place, a little bit scattermined. I will be honest, I gave these episodes pretty good reviews. However, I did have to rewatch both of them in different sections because I fell asleep in the middle of watching them. It was not because they were boring.
No, not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest. Go ahead and jump into the synopsis for episode 5.
We do this every week. Yeah, I never have the synopsis ready.
You were even here on time.
I was here on time today.
Though I guess I can't say much. I forgot to go ahead and, set up the stream until 30 minutes ago. I was like, oh, we probably should do that.
This was most likely a reshoot episode.
You think so? Yeah, I think
so.
Well, because this episode, yeah, I think so. I think you're right. So I think this was probably episode 2 originally.
All right, coming from Screen Rant. Go ahead.
That would also make sense if this is episode 2 because Matt's trying to get the loan to increase the size of the office, which we can see in episode 1 is definitely an increased office from where they left off at. So
yeah, these ones are a little bit shorter, but we can fill and vamp. Episode 5 starts with Matt going to a bank, and it is revealed that the assistant bank manager is Miss Marvel's dad, Yusuf Khan. He's there to get a loan to just increase the office size, right?
It's
expansion of the office
size and increase the staff size. Question for you.
Yep.
Since you have watched the Marvels and such, does Yusuf know his daughter is Miss Marvel?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know the context of that, so go ahead.
They talk back and forth. He talks a lot about how about his daughter, and he doesn't. I don't think he mentions that she's Miss Marvel, but like he has like a pop figure of Miss Marvel on his desk, which I thought was really cute.
So
it was like a really nice detail.
So what it is he says that Jersey has their own superhero, Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
He does not say it's his daughter.
Okay.
He claims it just as that area.
I just think it's really cute that he has a pop figure of his daughter on his desk.
That just it confirms our final.
Well, yes and no, because during that conversation, Kamala shoots him a text and he mentions her by name, and she is in California visiting friends. However, the series is taking place over multiple months, so that doesn't mean anything.
And again, if this was originally episode 2, it means that they were hinting at her drop for episode 8 or whatnot in episode 2. It's just they're trying to make this episode still fit into the timeline of this current show.
Yeah.
She's visiting friends in California. She's not going to be there very long.
Yusuf talks about how Miss Marvel is Jersey City's hero with Matt, who is unfamiliar. Matt does not meet the bank's criteria for the loan. And so he leaves the bank. And then as he's walking down the street, he hears guns and screaming. So he heads back to the bank where it is currently being robbed, held hostage, and he just mindless walks in. Mindless. Um, and oh my god, I really don't like this. Hold on, let me try to find a good synopsis because this is not good. It's just like key points, and it's like one sentence each. Okay. Now going back to comicbookmovie.com. Matt's application is declined, and he leaves the bank just as a heavily armed criminal gang led by Luca's right-hand man, Devlin, enters and takes everyone hostage. Specifically, he's named Devlin because he is the armed gunman in episode 2 that robs the truck at the dock.
Okay. I didn't piece that part together.
Murdoch hears the sirens and returns after first telling Kirsten McDuffie to call the cops. Khan lies about being able to open the vault as Jesse James, the name that Devlin gives the police, deals with Officer Angie Kim. Matt pretends to need to go to the bathroom and manages to incapacitate the goon in the red balaclava that accompanies him, arriving just in time to rescue Khan from his increasingly irritated guard. I'm going to pause there and talk about this fight scene, George. Because, oh my god, they have this really, really big, loud build-up with the score right before it starts. And as soon as it begins, all music cuts out. And it's just the hits, the shoe scuffs, and the grunts. And it is so perfect because you know he has to be quiet in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's just perfect sound design, I think.
No, yeah, it's fun and it's a good way to do it. It's a good way to show again the tension going into it, and then just exactly how quiet this whole fight's going. Like at one point, the shotgun starts to fall down the stairs, and so he throws the guy down the stairs enough so he could get there in time to grab it before it falls to hit anything. It's very well done. Cool. It's a very well timed fight. This feels like a Marvel fight.
Yeah.
Which, when we're looking at other shows Marvel's done recently, is an awful hard, level to get to for Marvel.
All right.
When you look at Captain America, it's an awful hard level for Marvel to get to at this point.
Yeah. As Kim tries to buy some more time by telling Devlin a joke, Matt and Yusuf manage to open the safe and discover a very expensive-looking diamond. This is a kind of complicated matter where you have to really, really be paying attention because there's kind of a throwaway line explaining why he's opening the vault. Basically, he tells Yusuf, and unless you're thinking like Matt, you're not going to understand why he's opening the vault. He tells Yusuf that they can't come back empty-handed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to spoil it a little bit. Basically, he's going after whatever they're robbing the bank for to bring it back to negotiate.
Yeah.
With the leader. Open the safe and discover a very expensive-looking diamond. The cops storm in the building and arrest most of the thieves. But Devlin dons a police uniform and makes his escape until Murdoch catches up with him and viciously snaps his leg. Dude, this fight is amazing. Because, dude, he's just wailing on him. He's letting the devil out. And it specifically ends with Murdoch pushing Devlin over, and he falls with his back onto a wall and one leg sticking out. And Murdoch jumps in the air and donkey kicks his leg into the ground. And oh my god, is it vicious.
I wonder if I can find the image of it.
Maybe. The episode ends with Matt returning to the bank to see Yusuf, who invites him to dinner with his family. Murdoch takes a piece of candy from the bowl on Khan's desk, switching it out for the diamond. A lot of people felt that this episode was filler. And honestly, I could see why.
So, again, since we know there's a lot of reshoots, this very much feels or is definitely one of the reshoot episodes.
The pre-reshoot or
the
post?
Pre-reshoot episode.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're just reusing it.
Because they stated in interviews that a lot of the episodes pre-reshoots felt more closed off, separate to everything else, separate to everything going on to the story. And this one is entirely self-contained, almost entirely self-contained.
Yeah, but again, I think they need this episode because we know that there is the big cameo episode coming up.
Yes,
that's
who
the cameo episode is.
Yep.
And this is the setup for it.
Yep.
Overall, I actually enjoyed this episode. I was in pain watching this episode. These fight scenes are gruesome in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And they're only getting worse from here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with, but at the same time, there were moments last night I paused. I'm like, oh. It was a fun episode. I don't know what to criticize of it.
My criticism is that it lacks connection to the series as a whole, and it hardly plays a part in the overarching story. That is my only criticism of this episode.
And I get that, but I do get on the other end of it, not all episodes that don't connect to it are considered filler.
I'm not saying it's filler.
Well, no. I'm bouncing between points because you had made the point that a lot of people were making it clear that this is filler to them. I don't feel that this one would be considered filler. This one is not necessary. I will say that, but this is more like that TV show episode where either you're working on a different part of the story, which of course we know it's always pre-filmed anyways, but maybe they're working on trying to get something else set up for it, or due to timing, this had to be filmed here and it just fits best here.
Yeah.
Overall, I like this episode. I thought this is showing, especially from us watching the trailer yesterday for the second part of the season, this is showing straightforward where the season's going. This was like, again, I feel that this was probably episode 2 initially. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's so early on with Matt trying to expand the office that any of the office scenes that we've seen of them in this new building could not have existed before this.
Yeah.
And unless all of those scenes are brand new, that means this is what's going on then. So it's either episode 2 or 3, depending on whatever episode 1 was considered.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do think if that's the case, I think this one's pretty much following up right around where the letdown episode last week was. And if that's the case, I'm really glad they changed the writing because this was all over the place than initially.
Yeah.
Because last episode was very much all the Matt Murdoch scenes we got.
Yeah.
Are very much so slow and stagnant. Where this is just like, we're going to be overly aggressive now because we can.
Yeah.
I gave this episode a 5.
Again, initially I was a 5 because of my earlier criticisms. I have to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
It's still really, really good. And like, honestly, it is like the perfect episode, but this is a serialized drama. And I have to say that every episode needs to incorporate the overarching story some way or another.
Well, and and don't get me wrong, we may come back and that score may come down because, I mean, if it gets to we set up Kamala in this show and never touch it, then yes, this episode's a waste.
Yeah.
But I knowing that we have the team up episode coming up, to me, this has to be the setup for that. Because if Kamala just randomly showed up in New York, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this episode?
No.
So following a quick detour to the bank in episode 5, we return to the streets of New York where a body has been found with its eyes gorged out.
This is also coming from a comic book movie.
This is coming from a comic book movie, yes.
Comicbookmovie.com.
Meanwhile, a new mural has also appeared on a nearby building, once again taking aim at the mayor. Cut to Matt Murdock back at his apartment reciting scripture while holding Foggy's Braille remembrance card and reflecting on some of the biggest moments from the season. So, I'm going to stop here. You still around?
Yeah.
This, I think, was what was supposed to be episode 5. This scene here.
The midpoint, the mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
This is picking up after the season cut. Maybe they were originally going to do shorter seasons, or this is picking up the mid-season cut. This is what this is, because I was watching it and I was like, cool. I don't really need a remembrance at this point since we kind of just went over all this, but sure. Okay.
Yeah, because there's like a quick montage of like while he's saying the prayer of all the fight scenes that have happened so far in the season.
And every, I believe at least every shot that is in this montage was just Born Again.
Yes.
Like if it was that we were doing a remembrance of Foggy and we were seeing all the different times of him and throughout the series, that'd be different. But since this was just this season, and it's not even just focused on Foggy, it's just focused on the season of what he's remembering, I was like, okay, this is not really needed here, but sure. As he finishes, Heather walks in and is surprised to learn Matt still prays. He says he's fallen off, but he's getting back to it. Meanwhile, back in the mayor's office, Sheila Rivera is briefing Mayor Fisk about an upcoming event on a schedule, but he tells her to go in his place because he's getting tired of all these black tie affairs. She then tells him, about an unexpected guest in his office, and he walks in to find Luca, the head of one of the 5 families. They talk business with the Kingpin delivering an ultimatum, to which Luca tells him to shove it. Fisk ups the asking price from $1.8 million to $2.8 million and tells him that he has a week to deliver or his time is up. Luca doesn't take it kindly and leaves. I love this little scene right here because this is showing, spoiler for the spoiler review, this is showing that Fisk is starting to fall into habits, and the end of this episode confirms that Fisk is falling back into old habits, just with new solutions, is how I'm going to word that at this moment. Matt and Heather discuss the events of the prior episode and how Matt feels about being taken hostage, which for obvious reasons doesn't bother him that much, though she doesn't know why. She tells him she's writing a book about vigilantes and why they're revered. Matt has thoughts but stays diplomatic. She starts to ask him about his prior work representing vigilantes and whether he'd consider arranging a meeting with someone like Frank Castle, which makes Murdoch laugh. She also asks about Daredevil, but they're interrupted before he can answer. Cue the credits. I know it's not going to happen. I really want him to set up a meeting between her and Frank. So Frank ends up having to talk to a therapist without asking to talk to a therapist. Because I think it would just be a funny set of scenes
Yeah.
We then pick up back at Fisk's office, where he receives a visit from John Satani, a sanitation worker, who has bad news about the murals. He launches into a detailed explanation, but when asked to get to the point, he reveals the murals are made from human blood, a twist that not even Wilson Fisk was expecting. Matt meets Kristen as they're discussing a case. Angela Del Toro drops in, wanting to talk to Mr. Murdoch. He asks her why she's skipping school, and she explains that she's following up on a mysterious case her uncle was working on before he was killed. She believes it ties into the missing persons case around the city, but needs Matt's help to investigate. Matt basically tells her to stay out of trouble and that there's not much he can do as a lawyer, advising her to leave it to the police. Angela, who knows the police killed her uncle, angrily storms out, saying she thought Matt cared, and she thought that she'll now have to take matters into her own hands. A deflated Matt looks on. Pausing again here. This scene is what told me that this whole episode was one of the reshoot episodes. This is or a original episode from this point on. Which, again, I think the reason last episode exists is because it was already done, and it was still a good episode, and they just wanted to use it.
Yeah,
and so that's why I'm okay with it being kind of wonky, out of order, because to save money on their budgets is why they reuse that shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Straightforward. Because again, this entire episode, none of this episode, I think was reused. I think this entire episode's original.
I think so as well.
This would be one of the more first episodes of that.
Yeah. So speculation, or do you want me to save that till the end?
Go for it.
Okay, so this scene proved to me that our cameo is going to be Kamala Khan, because the current fan theory right now is that Matt is going to play a mentor role to the Young Avengers champions, whatever you want to call them. And we know that Marvel is going forward with champions. And what's her name? Hector's niece. We know she's going to be the White Tiger.
Well, yeah, that
we assume she's going to be the White Tiger.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be more set up for champions. What are you looking up?
1 second. That's the rumor. I'm trying to see if this has ever happened in Marvel cinematic history. Or not Marvel history.
But like he's mentored other street levels before.
No, yeah.
And everybody being recruited to champions is street level, except for Wiccan. So
Okay. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. And I can see it happening.
I don't know if I can.
It gives them an in to put Charlie Cox into Avengers films. Because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for Daredevil to be in an Avengers film.
Let me think on that while I read. We'll come back to that. because I'm back and forth. Commissioner Gallo breaks down the case for Mayor Fisk, estimating whoever's painting the murals may have at least 60 victims. Fisk zones out for the rest of the conversation and decides to overhaul how New York is policed, especially with a serial killer of this caliber on the loose. Enter Muse. We find the villain in the middle of painting his latest piece, and then two fangirls stumble upon him, swiftly becoming his newest victims. We then head to a party where Mayor Fisk tells Vanessa about his meeting with Luca. She offers him advice on wining and dining the New York elites. Jack Darcussy is also in attendance and doesn't seem to be a fan of Fisk's vigilante policies. He issues a warning before heading out. We also learn that Kingpin seems to be getting bigger. Back at Murdoch and McDuffie, Matt meets with Sherry, who fills him in on the serial killer wreaking havoc across town. Sherry advises him to let it go and let the police handle it, but it's clear Matt is itching to get off the sidelines. This scene bugged me.
Okay.
Sherry just comes for the only purpose to say, there's a serial killer going around, leave it alone.
Yeah.
There's no reason for him to be here. And so I was like, I get that we have to this part felt like they didn't have any setup for Muse before with Matt, so they're like, Sherry's just going to tell him and it will be fine. And this felt forced.
I can see that, yeah.
This little scene took me out of it. A new mural featuring the girls from earlier has been painted, taking a direct shot at the police. Fisk uses this to his advantage by assembling a hand-picked task force full of every bad apple in the barrel. Gallo is in disbelief but can't stop him, and Fisk meets with the new officers he's singled out, including Officer Powell and Sergeant Cole North. He delivers a rousing speech, essentially promising them free reign over the city, no formal oversight, and instructions to report only to him. Nowhere this could go wrong.
Not at all.
And this is, again, leading back to why I think we're going to see for a good chunk of the rest of the season, Frank be teamed up with Matt.
And like, this is the episode where, like, everything is kind of clear as to how it all ties together.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me at least, I was like, once he showed Powell on the dossier of, like, his recruitment, I knew then, yes, task force. I knew how it was all going to tie together.
Yeah. Angela goes to investigate the subway and gets caught by Muse. He wastes no time and starts the process of draining her blood. Her aunt, Soledad, calls Matt in a panic. He dials 911, but after a moment, hangs up. This is a quote from their site. "Frick it, the devil is back." While Murdoch tracks down Muse, Wilson Fisk pays Adam another visit, this time challenging him to a brutal fight, where he unsurprisingly emerges as the victor. Adam has been beaten senseless, but is left alive. Is it confirmed he's left alive?
He's, like, breathing.
Okay.
When he's back in the cell.
In the subway, Muse hears something and finds himself face to face with the devil himself, who greets him with a swift punch to the face, confirming Angela is still alive. Daredevil unleashes his fury on the notorious serial killer, who turns out to be a competent fighter. They trade blow after blow, spilling an ample amount of blood in the process, and just as Daredevil is about to finish him off, senses Angela's heart rate dropping, he rushes to revive her, ultimately managing to wake her, though Muse escapes. As Angela awakens and sees him, Daredevil comforts her. assuring her that she'll be okay while reaffirming that, yeah, he's back.
So these fight scenes, Daredevil and Muse, and then Fisk and Adam are happening simultaneously, and they cut back and forth between the two fights with mirrored shots, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's just wonderful, man.
This is a good set of fight scenes and such in this section, and it's fun because it pays back to episode 2 where Fisk is officially running for mayor, and they're on that opposite side of the table, and they both have quote unquote stepped away from their roles, and here we're still mirroring each other, going back into it. It is very well done. It's very well shot. The new White Tiger, she's an idiot. Am I wrong?
I mean, no.
Exactly. I will say I don't like this episode as much as I like the episode before it.
Okay.
And part of that is straightforward. The fun thing with Daredevil in the past is whenever we're setting up a villain, or at least even the first confrontation with the villain, Matt is still figuring out the background of the villain.
Yeah.
And going into it knowing more about him. And I get they're trying to rush into this one because he has to go in for the save. But this doesn't feel like how Matt Murdock would have handled the situation. It's very much out of character for the way that they've set up, at least through the Netflix series and the first half of this season so far, how Matt responds to these situations.
Yeah.
I have a feeling next week we're going to get a more focused Muse episode of Matt breaking down who Muse is, but I think that's too late.
I have a kind of similar criticism. The biggest thing that irked me was I feel like he doesn't weigh and wait on suiting up again enough. I think he just goes into it too fast for my personal preference, because like that's kind of what this whole season has been about so far, is him going back and forth on if he should or not. And then I understand where it's like a life or death scenario, but like he literally sits there for 10 seconds and he decides, yeah, I'm doing it.
Well, that's one of the things I liked more about last episode was you can see that when he hears about, the robbery, he's kind of falling back into Daredevil, but he's not at the same time.
Yeah.
But he's kind of playing with that line. And so, yeah, we get him, throwing on just the red hood at the end, but that's just to protect his identity, not because he's playing the devil.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, in this episode, he just kind of goes, okay, correction to the writing of this episode, okay? My opinion is when new White Tiger comes and, gives him the details about the case, he should still go ahead and tell her to, leave it alone and, tell the police or whatnot and push her off. We should have started getting scenes of him investigating himself.
Well, they did. You just couldn't see it because whenever he was on the laptop, like when Sherry walked in and before her mom calls, he's researching the trains. The train lines.
Yeah.
So he is doing it.
It's just not very well explained.
I guess. I picked it up.
I also was tired, but I missed it. I gave this one a 4.5. Like, it's still a good episode.
4.5 as well.
we haven't gotten back to our 5. However,
I am ready to change my episode 5 number if that episode becomes important later.
that's fair. But what I was gonna say, unlike the Star Wars tropes that we've been dealing with, or Agatha,
We're
didn't
staying
hit a hump.
consistently high. There
We
was no
did not
hump.
hit the hump.
Same with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There was no hump.
Well, there was a little bit of a hump. We
No,
had
no,
a
I'm
couple-
saying Spider-Man had a hump.
Oh yes. This is sitting. I mean, we had one bad episode, but again, we kind of agreed that was probably just a previously shot episode that they.
And like, I wouldn't even say it's bad. It's okay.
It's okay
At worst.
We gave it 8 out of 10, so it's still pretty solid.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're sitting at on the season an average of 9.0.
Wow. Wow.
It's a good show.
It's good.
Last night's episodes were slower, in my opinion, but I think the Muse episode needed to be slower. Again, there's still scenes that I'm feeling like there's missing. There's not a lot of setup for Matt just to go straight into Daredevil.
Yeah.
The
bank heist episode, I feel like it's slow, but in a good way. In the sense that like you're feeling every tense moment. That's how I felt watching it. Was that it was slow, but in a good way.
I would agree, but my complaint based on the speed of it, okay, is they took, I think, too much time for the start tension to then speed through the end of it.
Okay.
They ran out of time, and instead of making it a 2-parter episode, which would have been really dumb, I'm glad they did not.
Yeah.
They crammed too much into it. I think that first section is too drawn out.
And then the second half is too fast.
Yeah, the second half is just too fast. As soon as the fight scenes start, it's sprinting from that point on.
Yeah.
And like the setup for, Miss Marvel, I get it, but I think that whole set of scenes was too long. We spent too much time just talking about what is going to happen later. We get a lot, like the back and forth of, send out the husband instead and leave me. That was too long.
Yeah.
Give me a joke and I'll give you 3 more minutes scene.
Yeah.
Like there's so much time we've just spent to talk that slowed down that episode that when we get to actually moving in the episode, it felt rushed. This episode was kind of the same. And I get why, because again, Matt hasn't known about Muse yet, but you can start to pick up speed as soon as he hears about all this incidents going on, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think part of what would have helped portray that he is starting his investigation in it is him not being at the same spot that he finds out the information. Because legitimately, he's in the same room, and so either he was busy and then didn't get back to it for, like 5 hours by the time he starts to look into it, or he's just been sitting at this conference table for 5 hours, meaning nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of off-putting. If he had gone like home, and then, then they could have increased what the speakers on his laptop was saying, because now he's investigating on his own, that would help portray he's starting to move into that.
He did. Because he's listening to the speakers when Cherry walks in, and then when he's at home, he's listening to the speakers then when he gets the phone call from Soledad.
Isn't the Soledad call him still at the office?
No, he's at home because that's
sure?
that's where he runs to the roof and he suits up.
Maybe you're right. I must have missed him being at home. That is my bad. I was tired. So then it's been like 2 days, and he's barely started investigation.
It's like the same day.
You think it's the same day?
Because it's the same day because she goes to the law firm at like 11 a.m. And then assuming Cherry comes at the end of his shift, which would be like 5 or 6, and then he gets the phone call at like 8 p.m. That's the same day.
I don't know. The timing of that, it's like I was tired. The timing of that section, I can't complain about, I guess, because I don't know for a fact. It just feels like because again, everything else that has happened, it can't be the same day. Because like that would mean in the exact same day, then that Fisk was able to get a message out to all the officers he needed to see, get their special vests because they are given a different vest compared to everybody else, made and produced to give to them, and then still get time to go back and go get ready for his fight with Adam.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm not saying that the Fisk scenes are necessarily on the same day, but like you would assume they are.
The timings are lining up. They're going back and forth between the shots, which means the shots are happening at the same time.
You would assume they are, yeah.
And so either Fisk is a miracle worker and could, do full like body armor protection build outs, or even buying them somehow in like an hour and get legitimately every officer he needs together. Because that means he also went ahead and gave to the commissioner that he needed the list of all the officers and their personnel files, and went through all of those in like 20 minutes to determine who he was going to pick. Like, the timing here is off, which is why I think it's supposed to be a couple days.
Yeah.
And again, if that's the case, then Matt's really bad at researching a train. It's a 4.5.
Yeah. It's still good.
It's still good.
This is just nitpicking at this point.
What was that?
This is just nitpicking at this point.
It is nitpicking. I do want to see us get to an episode where we get the devil for a full episode. What did you think of the fight scene, though, with the devil today? Or on this final episode?
I am so grateful that we brought back the original fight choreographer.
Yeah. Yeah, because this fight is very fluid. Like, you can still see that there's moments that Matt's having a problem because one, Muse is able to fight, but two, he hasn't actually done physical combat for a while now. Yeah. But it feels organic. It feels real.
Yeah.
Predictions of where we go next week?
Probably your full Murdoch research episode, I would assume.
Well, this is what comic book movies final line says, okay?
Okay.
I skipped until this moment. Next week's episode continues the Muse storyline, and things get extremely personal. I don't know what they're trying to lead to. Who is Muse? Who is Muse? Not like, obviously I know who the villain is, but like, who is the person in the mask?
Oh, the actor?
No. The character who...
I don't think that's ever revealed. Yeah, no, it's never revealed.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering if maybe we're gonna go into.
Nope, it's never revealed.
Okay.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
Not that I can think of anything from you.
No. We're on a good streak. We're on a
Yeah.
good streak. Let's hope it keeps that way.
I'm ready for another hype build episode though.
Yeah.
We're in a good valley, but I'm ready for another hype build to give me that high to push me through the last few episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe this week if we're getting more of the backstory and build up of Muse, because I like me a good villain.
Yeah.
Cool deal. If you made it to this part of the video, be sure to like and subscribe. We will be live about 2:30 on Saturday. Where we're going to do the Saturday show where we talk about a single topic opposed to multiple topics. We will not be live on Tuesday because we're going to be filming Seasons of the Force down at the park. That video hopefully will be live on Wednesday morning. But Wednesday night, about 6-ish, we'll be doing the next episode review plus the Pop Culture Jungle, where we will be touching into the Marvel announcements today. We'll be talking, that'll probably be a good chunk of the time.
Wasted a good 5 hours of my life today.
And yet you still have yet to see Snow White.
Yep.
And Justin's going to make sure he sees Snow White before Wednesday so we can get his update on the review.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Until then, see you later.
Bye.